Sunday v'yigesh Tovshin Ein Test. Bruchim Abam B'Shem Hashem. Igen Shechter the greatest covered Mekapom and the entire Choshevolim. Today we have the schus to have with us, like every Sunday, Harav Agon Rabbi Yakov Zev Mitchlita on the very important topic of being Frumer than others. Harav Mitchlita.
Someone asked me recently, the yeshiva was going someplace, and this boy wanted to stay home, he wanted to learn, and others felt it wasn't wrong. Everybody's going, you have to go with them. What is the Torah-dik, halacha-dik approach? And everybody's going, you want to be different. Or a question, I guess, also a common question. And one person decides he wants to take out a sefer, he wants to learn, and no one else is, and he feels uncomfortable, is that the right thing or not? You know, there are other shalos as we'll see today, but the common denominator when a person sticks out, when he looks firmer than the other person, or like in English, holier than thou. And the question is that the Ratzon Hashem to do something when it's a bad reflection on others? It makes others perhaps feel a little less chashiv, and not as frum as him, they might have resentment. And the emphasis, Re'eza Pella, this question, which we know is called Mechzi Kiyuara, when something gives the impression that he's above everybody, this is Gaiva, is a big sugya in Shas. In Shulchan Aruch, it's literally from the beginning, Siman Gimel, all the way till the end. And let's learn the sugya to see how halacha responds. The emphasis in Shas, the first source is the Gemara in Mishnah and Brachas of Tezayin. A chasen is really pata from Krishma. If he wants to be machmer, no, zunteheit. Zogab Shimon Gamliel, no. Loi kol haroitz elitelos Hashem yitol. A chasen's pata, and you're not allowed to be machmir and say Krishma. Pliya, no. You want to do a mitzvah deraisa, what's wrong? So Rashi, Daf Yitzayin Amud Beis explains, Im leihuchzik chacham v'chasid, ein ze el gaiva, shemar ba'atzmei sheyachal lechavan liba. Oh, you are different than everybody else. You could do it. And that's what the Gemara refers to in Daf Yitzayin Amud Beis of Yuara. And look at the extent of this halacha. He wants to do a mitzvah deraisa, Krishma is a deraisa, but if no one else does it, that's gaiva. Rashi's lashon, ein zel gaiva. So Chazal discouraged someone from doing a deraisa, because worse than giving up Krishma is getting involved with gaiva. Later, Daf Chav Zayin, Amar Aleph, the Gemara says you shouldn't daven on the side of your Rebbe, in front of the Rebbe, Zok Rashi, that's Gaiva. We'll soon see there's a special emphasis what you do next to your Rebbe. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Ches, says, according to one sheet, you're supposed to first be Masada Shvachai, and then you ask your requests in Shemayin Esra, like Moshe did. But Zok the Gemara, Rabbi Lezer says, Shani Moshe, the Rav Guvrei. How do you compare yourself to Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe did it, okay. But a person has to know his place. Comparing yourself to Moshe is Gaiva. The Gemara in Chulin Daf Kuvav, Hanoitel Yadav Lepeiros, Harei Eina Ela Migasei Ruach. If the peiros are wet and you wash, so that's halacha that many people keep. But to wash your hands for dry peiros is Gaiva. There's an unusual Gemara in Daf Nuntes in Bava Kama. Eliezer Zeira once was wearing black shoes and black laces, which is a sign of Avelis. So they asked him, why are you doing that? He said, what do you mean? I feel the Churban Abayis. Zok the Gemara, Sava, you are a Havi, Asyu v'chavshua. They felt it was Gaiva because no one else went to that extreme. And believe it or not, they put him in jail. Chavshua, they threw him into jail. Don't come along and do something that no one else does. That's Gaiva. Later in Daf Pei Aleph Amud Beis, the Gemara says a famous story. Rebbe and Rabbi Chia were walking on the road, and the halacha is that the Gemara learns there that when it's difficult to walk, you're allowed to walk on private property. And they felt it was mamish impossible to walk on the road, so you went onto the private property. That was one of the Tanoim that Yeshua allowed to walk on private property. Rabbi Yehuda was walking with great difficulty, on the road, jumping over the holes. In other words, he wasn't going to be makel and walk on private property. So Rebbe asked Reb Chia, who is that showing gaiva? Look, everybody's walking on private property, la halacha, and he has to be firmer than the rest. And they wanted to put him in chayrim. But since he was such a dehoiven person, okay. But from this, says the Yam Shel Shloim in Bava Kama, Perik Zayin, Siman Mem Aleph, and that the Rebbe Yosef and Siman Samach Gimel also says this, if someone is machmir, b'fnei rabbi, when they're not being machmir, you have to put him in chayrim. I remember many years ago, I heard from one of my Rebbeim, that a bacha came to Rabbi Aaron's house, it was Chanukah Grada, and the Rebbe was mechaber him with cookies. So the bacha asked the Rebbe, whose hashgacha are these cookies? That's what I heard maybe 35 years ago. Recently I saw this ma'isa printed, and there was an edition that the Rabbi Aaron said, you should be put into chayrim. And referred to this Gemara in Bava Kama. If I give you cookies, it's probably not treif. But this is really the concept of merzi keyura. There's an incredible Gemara in Bava Metzia Chaf Aleph Amid Beis. The Gemara says, if you ask a Talmud Chacham, did you learn that Masechta, do you know it? And he knows it very well, he's allowed to lie and say, I don't know it. He's allowed to lie? But obviously, Gaiv is the biggest sakana. And the question, of course, is, what's going on here? You're allowed to lie, you put him in chayrim, you put him in jail. So the answer, I hope, is obvious. Gaiva, even a trace of gaiva, even merzi kiyuara, is a terrible sakana. Gaiva is something that grows in a person, affects a person. It's interesting, the Smag, the Heilige Rishon, wrote a Sefer Mitzvahs, and he writes in the Akdama, and more bariches in Loises Yisamach Dalid, right before he printed his Sefer, he had a dream. And in the dream they told him, Shachachta sa'ika, you have all the mitzvahs, you left out the main mitzvah. Hishamalacha pen tishkach es Hashem. And I woke up, I realized I forgot to count the lav, the rice of Gaiva. And I put it into my Sefer, and he writes in the Akdama that this is really a Gemara in Avodah Soita Daf Hey, Azara Lagase Ruach Minayin, the pasuk Yishamalach Ben Tishkach Es Hashem. But to me, what's amazing is what they told the Smag, you forgot the Ikka. What's the Ikka of Yiddishkeit? You have to live with the Bari Yodim, you have to remember HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Gaiva is Shikchas Hashem. And the message is obvious. And Ever Hashem works for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He does mitzvah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Baal Gaiva is working for himself. Not Anoichi Hashem Oleikecha. It's Anoichi. You know, they say in America, the Almighty I. That's what he's working for. That famous taich, Anoichi Oimid Bein Hashem Uveinechem. The Anoichi is, the Zich is the biggest barrier between a Yid's Avoida and a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Gaiva is a person doesn't focus on Kadosh Baruch Hu, and he's all into himself. And that's what they told the Smag. You forgot the Ikka. Gaiva, Shikchas Hashem, is one and the same. But the emphasis is even more to this concept, this Makar of Gaiva. Rabbeinu Yoin in Shari Tshuva in Gimel Lamed Daled, Darshan the pasuk in Parsha Shoftim, talking to a melech, levilti rum levavei me'echav. You're not allowed to have gaiva. Zok Rabbeinu Yoina adav nifla. A melech, there was a chiyuv deraisa to give a melech almost unlimited kavod. I mean, the kvoid malachim al pi Torah is unbelievable. And yet, although the melech got kavod day and night, but he had a chiyuv, a special chiyuv. Don't let it get to your head. Kavod is one thing, but gaiv is treif. Zokte bein yoyin, I saw the Ramban al Torah said the same word. Even a melech that has kavod al pidin, you have to be careful. What about us? Because the poison of gaiva could destroy the person. He's focused on himself. But the emphasis is even more to gaiva. There's a third makor al pitayra from the is of gaiva. the Meiri in the Chibat Tshuva in Maimah Aleph, Ois Hey, he first quotes Rishonim that the Is of Gaiva is the Pasik Levilti Rum Levavai, like the Rabbeinu Yoina learns. And then he says, others learn the Makar of the Is of Gaiva is Laisisnas Achicha Bilvavecha. And that's a very profound insight. You know what a big sakon of Gaiva is? When he starts to think he's above everybody else. And then literally he looks down at others. He's no longer respecting others, he's better than them. The sakana of Gaiva is also, it corrupts a bein adam l'chaverei. He's better than them. They're nobody's. Look what I do this, I do that. And it's interessant, I saw there, Beis Yosef and the Afkas Reichel, Simen Lamed Vav, and the Dvar Shmuel Abu Hav and Simen Mem Vav, both talking about halachas of Mechzi Kiyura, they both say, come out the same lashon. He's matil pegam, he's matil mum bekotchim. He says, Yidin, they're no good. I'm better, I know what I'm doing. The sakana of Gaiva is not only bin adam lamokoim, v'shachachtas Hashem oleikecha, but it's also, it corrupts a bin adam lachaverei. He looks down at you and I'm on a different level. And then you can understand why even Mechzi Kiyura is awesome. Now today there's a Machler, Rahman al-Islam, even one cell could destroy a person. It spreads. Mechzi Kiyura is like a poisonous cell that destroys a person eventually. And that's why you could see La Halacha, the Rambam, in Chizdeis, Perik Beis, Halacha Gimel, that basically a Yid has to go in the Derech HaMamutza, in the middle path. But when it comes to Gaiva, he has to go the Tzei Ha'acha. And that's really the Mishnah. Ma'oid havei shval ruach. The sakana of Mechzi Kiyura is when a person lets Gaiva get into a system. Now he's looking down at people. I must say, I never liked that. Today there's a word called Haimish. Haimish means like, we're Haimish and, them. Now it became a bigger art. There's Haimish and there's Hamish. There's two levels. Soon there's going to be Bahaimish and Behamish also. But the emphasis, that's a danger in that when we start to label people. I'm Haimish, he's not, So that's like Psul Gavra, Psul Chefza, I don't know what it is. But that's the Mechzi Kiyura, you look down at people. And that's why you'll see Rabbeinu Yoin and Avos on that Mishnah, and Rabbeinu Bechai and Erech Gaiva, two Gedolei Rishonim, both Gedolei Poiskim, use kemat the same lashon. Ein lecha mida kasha imenu. Hakasha shebechol amida, says Rabbeinu Bechai and Erech Gaiva in the Kakara Kemach. The worst mida is Gaiva, and now you can understand why even Mechzi Kiyura is awesome. Of course, sometimes it causes Chil Hashem. People say, oh, this is too Frumer, I can't take it. There's something wrong with this whole Yiddishkeit, Rahman al-Islam. Sometimes it causes Machlaikis. But we don't need much to understand what David HaMelech davened in Tillim, this one of the Pshatim, Al Taviyeni Regel Gaiva. Keep me far away from Gaiva, even to the Regel of Gaiva, like the Welt teaches. Even Mechzi Kiyura is awesome. And now that we realize that Gaiva is a Daraisa, and that many Rishonim say it, and at Paisik Acher in the Chavetz Chaim, in the Sefer, in the Akdama Lav Hey says one of the many Yisurim that the Baal Lashon Hara Zoiva is Gaiva, because that's an Azara Lagase Ruach. We understand that even Mechzi Kiyura is awesome. So now, Bez Hashem, that we have a better understanding of the Issa of Mechzi Kiyura, let's learn Al Pisei the Shulchan Aruch. We'll try to organize it. And you'll see, Taka, from the beginning till the end, how many halachis are based on Mechzi Kiyura. First of all, there's a Gemara in Brachas, Daf Samach, halacha l'chayr, halacha l'maisa. When someone goes into the Beis HaKisei, there's a whole nusach he has to say, Eskabdu mechubadim, Rashi explains, because the malachim accompany him, and now he goes into the bathroom, they have to leave, so he has to apologize to the malachim. We don't do that today. Why not? Zok the Beis Yosef in the beginning of Siman Gimel, because today we're not on the madrega of the Yira Shamayim and Chassid that we could say that malachim accompany us. So if we go ahead and say iskabdim mechubadim, that's merzi kiyuara. And then you'll see in Shulchan Aruch, you'll understand that better in Siman Gimel, Sif Aleph, Kishen Nichnas, the Beis Kisa Yemu Hiskabdu, V'achshav le'nahagu la'omroi. So there you have one halacha l'maisa, based on merzi kiyuara. Okay, you could say, why on Shabbos do we sing Shalom Aleichem? All of a sudden we become a chutanim with the malachim. There it says the Shabbos Eid is different. Shabbos Eid does have malachim accompanying him. In the beginning of Hilchas Tzitzis, the Mishnah Berurah and Sifkot Daled, the Ber Heitev and Sifkot Gimel quotes a Radvaz. There's an Inyan Gadol to wear a talis over your head by davening. And that's the minig of Roiv Tfutas Yisrael. There are some killers, Adayoim, that this Akpeda, only the Rav covers his head with a talis, and the Tzibur wears a hat. What's the pshat? A certain recovery for the Rav, a certain discipline. And I'm not saying we do it, but the point is the covered for a Rav, that's also part of your Rav. This is a status symbol, this is a badge of honor, it's reserved for the Rav. I'll give you another example. I don't think the Olim even realizes where it's coming from. Did you ever wonder, for many people, especially the Chassidim, the talis gadol has one hole with the attached to tzitzis to. Talis cotton are different minhagim. Some people have also one hole, and some have two holes. What's the difference? The same mitzvah. So the Beis Yosef in the end of Siman Yud Aleph quotes Rishonim that having two holes is merzi kiyuara, because really it's not necessary, and it's merzi kiyuara. Others say, if you have to do it, it's not kiyuara. So the Bach makes the pshara. Talis cotton that you wear inside, no one sees, so we'll soon see betzina. There's no yura, you can wear two holes. Talis gadol that you wear on the outside, everybody sees, that's no good, that's merzik yura, and therefore, the minig b'chol Yisraels, on the talis gadol, you make one hole. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah Taka says in Siman Yud Aleph, Sif Cotton, Lamed Tes. Today it's interesting, Chassidim have two holes, and they wear the tzitzis, even talis cotton on the outside, so shtickle of a tzarachin, but that's where you see merzik yura and hilchas tzitzis. Did you ever wonder, and I'm not giving new ideas, so please don't quote me, but the Rishonim struggle with the question, why don't women wear tzitzis? You'll say, what do you mean? They're potter from tzitzis, man grama, but then again they're potter from lulav, shayfa, and sukkah. So the emes is the Targum Yonason ben Uziel on the pasuk la yilbash, la yia gulyan the tzitzis utfilin dehinen tikun gever alitisa. The Targum Yonason ben Uziel, one of the Heilige Tanoim, seems to feel for an isha to wear tzitzis or tefillin is an issa of la yilbash gever simas isha, or fakert. So like the Targum, it's very good. But the emes is, this has been questioned by other Rishonim, so make a special type of tzitz, make a pink type of tzitz. It should be nikud that it's for nashim. So we would say, I know the pshat pashit. That's yura. Kalapatim and adava vayseyu nikra hedget. But it doesn't really stem, because women are patim from sukkah, lulav, and shayf, and they do it. And the Raviyah, one of the Rishonim in Megillah Tov Kuf Tzadik Zayin, says if many women do a mitzvah that they're part, it's no longer gaiva. So now we have a kasha, manish tana tzitzis, and you should know, tzitzis is wrong. The Maril in the Chadasha is Nechuvas, the end of Siman Zayin, it's a mavel dikazach. He says, even though I see women wear tzitzis, it's yuara, and it's mikriyat yoitis, and in the Maril Naman Hagim he says the name in fact, of one Rebbetzin that wears tzitzis, and it's wrong. He wasn't Meicha because he knew she wouldn't listen. That's what he writes. But the question is, manishtan et tzitzis from lulav, shayf, and sukkah. So here you'll see a Ramah bavorns the kasha. In Siman Yud Zayin, Siv Beis, the Machabas is nashim apata from tzitzis, and the Ramah says if they want they could wear it, but it's merzi kiyura, and zok the Ramah, since tzitzis is not a choyvaz gavra, it's only a chiyav if you're wearing a beged, but it's not like other mitzvahs there's a chiyav to do. So men could do it, but for women it's gaiva. Very good. Sukkah, lulav, and shayfa is a chiyav on every person. It's only tzitzis that is not really a chiyav. It's only if you have dal kanfais. That's why it becomes gaiva. Oh, so now we understand why tzitzis women don't wear. The question is, what about tefillin? Tefillin is a chayvas gavra. Why don't women wear tefillin? So that's the Ramah later in Lamed Ches Gimel, because for tefillin you need a guf naki, and women are unable to maintain a guf naki. The next question is a big discussion in the Kadmoinim. The Mari Brunya in Siman Tzadik Vav, again, one of the earliest Achronim, was asked about wearing the talis cotton outside, over the shirt. So he says, Hakol fi aminig v'azman v'ya'adam. But he says, one thing is for sure, and he brings countless Gemaras, Ayin Sham. He says that even by Begadim, there is a concept of Merzi Kiyuara. The emissaries, the Gemara says, he called his beged Mechubadai. A beged, clothing, defines a person. That's his identification. The Gemara in Shabbos have Kuf Yud Gimel, Kuf Yud Ches, other places. And he says the Mari Bruna, there is definitely a concern of Gaiva. Sorry, it's Kuf Yud Dalet in Shabbos. And Kuf Yud Gimel, that there's a concern of Gaiva, the way you dress. And at the end, he seems to conclude that since in his times no one wears the talis cotton over the shirt, it's taka merzi kiyuara. Now, Lamaisa today, as you know, that's the minig to wear it on the shirt, over the shirt, so it's no longer merzi kiyuara. But we could say, based on this Mari Bruna, in a place that no one does it, it would be merzi kiyuara. I just recently saw, I could call it an historical tshuva, in one of the major yeshivas before the Second World War. There were a group of Bachim that became very frum and started doing things different than anybody else. One of their symbols, they wore tzitzis on the outside. And the Manal of the Yeshiva wrote a letter to asked the Shaila to the Emek Halacha, Rav Boimel, one of the Gedolim in those days, could he basically expel them from the Yeshiva because it was causing unrest in the Yeshiva. And this Emek Halacha responded based on Mari Brunya that if it's not done by anybody, then you're not allowed to do it. If they don't listen, you could taka expel them. So if indeed no one does it, it's merzik yura. But today it's mamish like the Mari Brunya himself writes, Hakolafi haminig hazman via adam. No, in our times it's done, it's an accepted minig, and ein lahara achrav. The other question of wearing the tzitzis, the strings on the outside, that's not an issue of yours. That the Mishnah Berurah says in Siman Ches, Yivka and Chavav, you're supposed to wear it on the outside. Okay, Svardim have their minig. I saw the Yaskel Avdi, Hey Gimel, Yechavadas, and Beis Aleph, Tzitz and Ches Gimel all say the minig of Svardim based on the Riyah Kaddish is dafka not to wear any part of tzitzis on the outside, everything in the inside. So maybe for Svardim it would be Merzi Kiyura to wear tzitzis on the outside. But Akapanim for Ashkenazim, the beged is totally in minig, and the tzitzis is basically halacha. The Torah in Siman Chav Dalet quotes a familiar minig that when you say Krishma, you hold the tzitzis between your fingers. Zok to Beis Yosef, don't do that because that's merzik yuara. We'll soon see the Beis Yosef was very sensitive to yuara, and here he finds a problem in holding tzitzis by Krishma. As basic as that, Lamaisa today it's done. Already, because the minig has become to do it, and therefore, once you do it, that's not yura. Yura means I am better than you. But if that's the accepted minig, so it's no longer yura. One of the main issues of yura in halacha, goes back to the Rishonim, is the very important question of Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. The Maril in the Chuvas in Kuf Lamed Zayin, when he was asked about wearing Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin after Rashi, I didn't see my Rebbeim doing it. Ukimeduma, hoyav merzi kiyura. Vein lita les Hashem alamisha muchzik umefursim bechasidus. Do you hear? Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, don't forget, is a question of which tefillin is right. According to Rabbeinu Tam, you're not yotza with Rashi's tefillin. It's not a question of a hiddur, it's a question of kakaflei monach tefillin. They say a story that they wanted to reprint the Shulchan HaTorah, the Kamana Sefer on the Archaim, and someone didn't want to let them reprint it because he wrote there, if you don't wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, you're kakaflei monach tefillin. So they asked the Chazon Ish, what should they do? He writes, you're not yotzei tefillin, kakaflei monach tefillin. So Chazon Ish, with a twinkle in his eye, says, what should I tell you? Rabbeinu Tam said the same thing. He's not making a chiddush. So this is a question of a deraisa. And Maril says, forget about Sveika deraisa. If no one does it, it's Yuara and don't do it. And in Shulchan Aruch, Re'ez Apela, the Beis Yosef in Lamed Dalet Beis, Yirei Shemaim, Yetzi Dei Shneim, and he wears 2 pair of tefillin. In Siv Gimel, Layasakein Elamisha Muchzik Umufursin Bechasidus. So he does acknowledge the importance of Beinu Tam tefillin, but it's limited to a person that's becoming of it. To the extent, I want to tell you, the Be'er Heitiv quotes Marash HaLevi, even if someone started wearing tefillin, their Beinu Tam, you could tell him to stop. That is Merzi Kiyura. The Shvus Yankov in Chelik Beis and Memdalet says, if someone does it in front of his Rebbe, in front of a Gola doesn't do it, Avada, it's Merzi Kiyura. And this, as we said, this is a special focus in front of an Adam Gadol. That's not a place for Yuara. And the truth is, this was the minig in previous generations, that in a place that it wasn't done, it was Kamat Asa to wear Beinu Tam tefillin. Now, of course, we'll soon see B'tzina, you're allowed to do it. B'tzina, there's no gaiva. But B'fahesia, it was reserved to the Rav, the Dayan, the Sheikhet, the greatest of the Tzibah were able to do it. Today, Poik Chazim Ayama Debar, a person gets married, he gets a Beinu Tam tefillin. I say Beinu Tam tefillin is accepted and expected. You know, he opened a Talazekel, the new one, the Shver buys the Chassan his Talazekel, there has to be also a Beinu Tam tefillin. What happened? Under the chuppah, he became a muchzik mefursim mechasidus. The teretz is very pashut. Since in our times it's done, once it's done, now maybe the original people that changed the minig were oiva, that's Ken Zayin. But lamaisa today, it's no longer only exclusively for a mefursim mechasidus, and that's certainly why I saw the Chidah in Birkei Yosef. Now with similar Madal, it says very briefly, today most people do it, and it's Leimer Zikiyora. Rather, the Chidah in his Chuvas Chaim Shol Siman Aleph adds another twist, that since it was found that Al Pi Kabbalah doesn't Indian to have both, not als a suffix, not als Frumkeit, but it's a Chiv Al Pi Kabbalah, that's another reason why there's no longer any concern of Mer Zikiyora. The point has to be that when someone is doing something different, that's gaiva. When something is accepted, that is accepted. I remember, I once asked my shul saying many years ago, probably over 35 years ago, about a bacha growing a beard. In the yeshiva, it's not so common. This is 35 years ago, and it wasn't as common today. She looked at me and says, "What's wrong? My dentist has a beard." In other words, if it's done, it's, it used to be only a meforsim. It's done, it's done. That's the yisoid of why Rabbeinu Tam and other inyanam b'doimalai are no longer a issa merzi kiyora. What's a little more challenging, someone asked me this question, a bacha decided he wants to do a tefillin during first Seder. Now, l'maisa it's a mitzvah, and he's going to keep a gufnaki, and he's not being Masiach Das, he's learning. So l'maisa, here we come to a very crucial question, because that's klar. Something that's a chiyuv, there's no gaiva. There's a mavaldik maril in Manhagim mezuzah aleph. It seems in those days people kept one mezuzah on their house on the front door, and the rest of the doors they didn't put it up. So much so, someone asked the maril, "Is it merzi kiyura if I put up mezuzahs on every door of my house?" So maril writes him back with pain. He goes, "That's yura. That's halacha l'maisa. Do it. Encourage others." Yura is not applicable when a chiyuv is being neglected. Yura is a midas chasidus. So here the question is, what is the extent of wearing tefillin kol hayom? If it's a chiyuv, and we don't do it, so then someone wants to do it, could do it. If it's just an extra, and no one does it, it's merzik yura. So this, trust me, could be probably a half a shift by itself. You start with the Rishonim, the Rambam Shita, there's a shtickle steer in the Rambam Shita. But basically, to make a very long story short, there are Gedolei Rishonim, Gedolei Apoiskim, that hold that the Chiyuv Daraisa of Tefillin is Kol Hayom. We can't do it, we don't have a Gufnaki, or Masiach Das, but the Chiyuv Daraisa is Kol Hayom. Le'idach Gisa, the Arishayim, then the Pri Megadim in Lamed Zayin Beis, the Aruch HaShulchan in Gimel, the Chayodim in Yudalad Yud Ches, say that the Chiyuv is once a day. If a person wears a Kol HaYom, Avad it's a Kiyam Mitzvah D'Oraisa, nothing to talk about. But the Chiyuv is once a day. The Bialacha in Siman Lamed Zayin first begins with the Pri Megadim, Safik, and he says basically it's a Mitzvah Kol HaYom, but not a Chiyuv. Then he says, but Yeshua's Yaakov, El Yirabah say it's a Chiyuv Kol HaYom. And then he quotes the Goyin and Ma'aserav Siman Yud Ches. If you're Chayshish, you want to wear Tefillin Kol HaYom and you're Chayshish for Yuara, so the Goyin advises making a small, only wear Tefillin Shal Yad, so no one sees. And it's even better if you make a small Tefillin Shal Roish, so you can wear both and no one sees. So it seems that the Goyin was chayshish for Yura with wearing tefillin kol hayom, but then the Bialacha concludes Asher Yamakayim Kedinoi, and he wears tefillin kol hayom. So it's a little of a mixed message. Is there Yura by tefillin? The Chavetz Chaim quotes the Ma'aserav and Siman Yud Ches that at least the Goyin sheet that there's Yura by wearing tefillin kol hayom, and it's tickle of a chiddush because in Keser Roish, Reb Chaim Volozhin's Keser Roish Siman Tezvav, he quotes the Goyin that's saying there's absolutely no Yuara when you wear tefillin kol hayom, because Adrabah, everybody should be doing that. So this is something of an issue, what exactly was the Goyin Shita. But one thing we could say that in Tafshin Nun Tes, it's not done that people wear tefillin kol hayom. And that's why basically it's sort of a minig not to wear it, whether there is a chiyuv or not. But I find it hard to believe a person should wear tefillin kol hayom and defy minig ha'olam. Tak in the olden days, it must have been an awesome sight. Working people wore tefillin kol hayom. The butcher and the baker and the carpenter, they all wore tefillin. That was the minig. But today it's not done, so we have to do what Mr. Bura says in Lamed Zayin. You wear tefillin, of course, by davening, before davening, there's a seder, after davening, halavah you could add. But basically, B'tzibur, B'rabim, it seems to be Yuara. Someone told me the story, I could not verify it, but whether the story happened or not, but the Yesod is true. A Bacha decided in a certain yeshiva in Israel to wear tefillin kol hayom. And the parents were very unhappy, and they brought him to Rav Sheinberg, Zechaynu Livracha. A very poor choice of whom to bring him to. Rav Sheinberg wore tefillin kol hayom. So they brought him to Rav Sheinberg and said, here, he wants to wear tefillin kol hayom. And Rav Sheinberg, with Gvaldige Tmimus, he says, why do you want to wear tefillin a whole day? Why don't you just be normal? And there's so much oimik to that. For Rav Sheinberg to wear tefillin kol hayom is perfectly normal. He was a person that was not Masiach Das from Torah. He was talking the Meforsim, Muchzik B'Chasidus. But for a young Bach, it's not normal. Why don't you? And he was probably saying this as he was wearing tefillin kol hayom. But it's not a stira. For me, it's normal. For you, it's not. That's the attitude. A person has to be normal. And that's really what Yuara is based on. So today, we should all be normal and do what's right. Krishma, for a chosin, that we know is a Gemara. But it's Maradik how Toises put a spin to this halacha. Midin HaMishnah, a chosin's pata. And if he wants to be machmir, he's not allowed to. Yuara. Zok Toises, fakert. Now that the Chassan says Krishma, let's say one Chassan says, you know something, I'm really afraid I'm not going to have Kavana, I'm not saying Krishma. I'm going back to the Mishnah. Zoktai says, that's Yuara. Aha! Anaya Rashke Bahag Tish. Every day his Krishma is perfect. Punkt today, he's worried. Zoktai says, today if someone doesn't learn Krishma, that's Gaiva. And the Mechaber quotes this in Siman Ayin Siv Gimel. Gaiva is when a person is going against the tide, so to speak. He's always different. You have to be on guard when Gaiva applies. In Siman Tzadik Siv Chav Daled, the Shulchan Aruch records not to daven on the side of your Rebbe or behind your Rebbe. You look like you're same league. I must add, the Shulchan Aruch also says, in a different place, a person not supposed to daven behind his Rebbe, especially if he davens along Shemay Esrei. The Rebbe wants to back up after Shemay Esrei, and his Sadikal, who's davening behind him, is davening. So the Rebbe can't finish Shemay Esrei. The Baal Klil was waiting for the Rosh Hashiva. The Rosh Hashiva was waiting for this Bacharel, who forgot that that's Keneged Halacha. So if you daven along Shemay Esrei, you go in the slow-moving vehicle, section, not disturbing anybody. The Pichadash in the end of Siman Tzadik Dalos is a Mavel de Gezach. If someone davens, he has no choice. He's on a plane, Lamashal. He has to daven sitting. He's Yoitza. But he's Yoitza. If he wants to daven over again, it's Merzik Yuara. Because you davened. What's wrong with the first one? You think you only perfection? That Merzik Yuara. In Tzadik Hey, Siv Gimel, how to daven Shemay Esrei, how to start, how to hold your hands, not to do things different than others. The Kavayosha, the Heilige Sefer Kavayosha, the end of Siman Kuf, it's an extra long Shemay Esrei, might be Merzik Yuara. In Kuf Yud Gimel Hey, the Shulchan Aruch says not to bow too far down, that's Gaiva. In Kuf Chav Gimel Siv Dalid, to add to the Gimel Pesiyos, even though your Min L'Shem Shemayim is Gaiva. Kuf Chav Zayin Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch speaks about bowing by Moedim, a little extra might be Gaiva. The point is, a person should not stand out. He should be normal. I once saw Merid Gezach, Zalman had a minyan kavu where he davened, and one day an oval showed up. And the oval obviously davened with more chitzonius than pneumius. Very emotional and very dramatic. And it bothered Shlomo Zalman so much that he changed his kviyas for that along with that oval davened. Because he couldn't be soivel a davening that's less than erlich. You're talking to Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is the spitz al tevayeni regel gaiva. You're getting all excited. So a person has to keep that in mind, that he has to fit in. Especially when he's doing something publicly, don't stand out. There's a Mavel de Ketshuva of Shlomo Kluger in the Elef Shlucha Shlomo Siman Kuf Yud Beis. The words speak for themselves. Shlomo Kluger wrote tens of svarim. He was Mamish Rabbim Shel Kol Bnei Agoyim. They asked him about his minig regarding Kabbalah Shabbos, certain Shalom Kabbalah Shabbos. And I quote his Lashon, Yeda ki ani, eini noyik sum dav chumr yois midalas ha'am. Umehedet shebet yoitiv. I'm not different than anybody else. V'alavai sheyechelki lo'elam haba, im chad amada ara hoylech temim. Halavai, I should be together with the rest of Klal Yisrael. Mamish, I guess he's paraphrasing, B'seich ami anoichi yoshev. This is Shlomo Kluger, who was certainly Meshichma Yolamayla Gavayim Ikalam. But that's an attitude. Try to blend in with others. Don't stick out. That's really you are. And once Rabbi Yakov Kametsky a certain shayla, he told me, Dalacha veisich nit, aber ein zach veisich, kala meshana yodi al tachtoina. It's a base that's really paraphrasing a sugi in Bav Metzia. But he's saying if you do different than everybody else, it's not good. And I just found, when I learned the sugi this week, the Avkas Reichel and Simon Lamed Vav, halay toiv lanu loim regarding the shayla of Yuara, shezel shemeshana v'yodi al tachtoina. The same play on words. Don't be different. Blend in with other people. In Kuf Nun Ches, Siv Heg the Mechabes, a Neutel Yod of the Paris, raising Megasi Aruach. In Kuf Ayin Siv Ches, the Mechaba Paskins, based on a Derech Eretz Rabbah. If someone drinks his kais all in one time, he's a gargarin. Twice is Derech Eretz. If he drinks a kais in 3 sips, that's Gaiva, Gasei Ruach. It even dictates how to drink. To drink in a normal way. In Reish Lamed Hey, the Ramah says if the Tzibah davens early Ma'ariv, so say Krishma over later. But don't daven over Shemay Esrei because they weren't really Yaitza. That's Gaiva. In Bialocha, in Reish Samach Beis Gimel, Hilchas Shabbos, speaks about wearing white clothing on Shabbos. Of course, and that's the minig in Yerushalayim. But he says if it's not done in your city, that's Gaiva. But he says, he quotes a Pri Megadim, if you want to wear your white begadim on Shabbos at home, that's fine. And here we see an important yesod. Gaiva is asa, Yuark is asa, but B'tzin is mutter. Why? If you're going out of your way and doing it only at home, that means you're in control. The Shus Yankov in Beis Memdalet points out that if you go out of your way and do it only at home, even though you can say, well, I'm so holy, I'm doing it in my house, but obviously if he's controlling himself, that's not allowing the gaiva to set in. Avada, if someone wears it at home and thinks, I'm better than everybody else, look, I'm even an honor of Nachtetzu. So that's Gaiva. Gaiva is gossip. Asher Zechron Baruch once said, he once read when he was a child, one of the Goyish prominent people said, the best thing is when you do something privately and people find out about it. And you get all the covet. You know, it was all worth it. You know, that's a Goyish mentality. But a Yiddish mentality is you do something with sinna. Hatznei leches imolei kecha does not mean sleeve lengths. Hatznei leches is sneus. You're doing something kulei l'Hashem, mugdish l'Hashem. That's not merzi kiyura. The Beis Yosef, again, the Beis Yosef was very, very, very sensitive to merzi kiyura. In the end of Reish Ayin Vav, Beis Yosef says if it's a cold day and it's very cold in the house and Allah is allowed to call a guy to put on the steam, and you don't, it's merzi kiyura, and it's a tmi on that person. I say the person has to live with a cheshbin. If the Welt is mekel, you could be mekel. The Taz in Tavkuf Nun Aleph, Sif Yud, to be machmer when something is a psak of the Gemara is also. Unless he does it mamish in a way that it's not a stira, it just blends in. But something that's a psak halacha, what's malkum for chumrah? I forgot to mention Hilchas Pesach and Taf Ayin Beis. There's a concept of yur regarding the Seder night. If someone's part of him a seiba and he does it, it might be merzik yura. There's an important attitude in Taf Kuf Nun Dalet Siv Chav Beis in Shulchan Aruch. There was a different minhagim regarding do malacha on Tisha B'Av, if you're allowed to or not. So the Mechaber says, really, you go bust the minig. If the minig is to do malacha, you're allowed to do malacha. The minig is not to, don't do malacha. But says the Shulchan Aruch, even if the minig is not to do malacha, even the minig is do malacha, you're allowed to be machmir, not do malacha. Zok the Taz, what about v'lei merzik yura? Daraya Omer she'ein le'ishem malacha. Not that he's being machmir, he has nothing to do. He's lazy, he's taking it easy. And this is a big makar in the sugya of yuara, that even if something might be yuara, but if it's not nikar, if it's sort of bitzina, now he's walking around, not doing malacha. But that is something like we said earlier, Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin wearing at home, or having 2 holes on your talis katan, something that no one sees, and no one notices, not merzik yura. And here we see it, midin and Shulchan Aruch. Another mavaldik halach at the end of Tavkuf Samachay, based on a Rishalmi. If someone accepts a self-imposed tainus, but he's not mechuyev, but he mekabel tainus as a kapara, and he tells others about it, nenesh al kach, he gets punished. Because that's real gaiva. That's not merzi, that's the real McCoy. I'm fasting, I'm a heilige mensch. Not only doesn't get schar, but he gets punished. But to me what's interesting is the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Yudal, it says, if they ask you, Rabbi Yid, are you fasting today? And you are, you're allowed to say, no, I'm not fasting. How could a Yid say an untruth? But this is the Mesugim Bava Metziyah, that to maintain a certain anava, to avoid gaiv, you're allowed to lie. Then the Mishnah Berurah adds, but let's say it's a regular tainus, a chiyuv, and people are lax in their observance of the tainus, then adarabah, go around publicizing that you're fasting, hopefully others will follow. This is very similar like the Mariol that we mentioned about mezuzah, what something is a chiyuv, go out and do it. And this reminds me what I mentioned earlier, the Keser Rosh in Siman Tezvav quotes his Rebbe, the Goyin, that he says, today we need chizik, there's no yuara. You do something, do it publicly, advertise, broadcast, hopefully people will be nisayra. But again, at the same time, a person has to know there's a time and place for everything. Matcha Schwab Zechon Leracha once told me, he said, I was a Frumer bacha. And Reuven Gazovsky told him, to sein from darf man sein a groise goyin. You have to know when to be from. Sometimes it's not from, it's krum. Sometimes it's yuara. I just saw in the Sefer Shalmei Tziba, that was the father of the Marit Al-Ghazi. He has a shtickle hagdama to the Sefer, and he writes a little bit about merzik yuara. So he says one of the problems with merzik yuara is that a person not ready for it, he might make mistakes. And he says a ma'aseh shahoya bizmanoi, someone was wearing 2 pair of tefillin, 2 Rashi tefillin. So they asked him, what are you doing? It's Baal Taisif. He goes, no, the Rebbe wears 2 pair of tefillin. I'm also wearing 2 pair of tefillin. In those days, there were Rashi and Ben Tam simultaneously. But he was an Amoritz, but the Rebbe does it, I do it. So he's wearing 2 pair of Rashi tefillin and emes Baal Taisif. So if you end up, from Frum becomes Krum. In Erev Rosh Hashanah, there's a famous tour in the end of Tuf Kuf Pei Aleph, that the minig of big people to fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Gedolim Misan on Erev Rosh Hashanah. Why? The famous marshal that there's the city's in big trouble and they have to beseech the king to forgive them. So first the great people go out and try to generate schusim. So based on that, the Gedolim fast on Erev Rosh Hashanah. That's the lashon of the Torah quoting a medrash. Frag the Beis Yosef, and again the Beis Yosef was very sensitive to Yuara. The makar of the chiyuv is Gedolim fasting Erev Rosh Hashanah. Why is everybody fasting Erev Rosh Hashanah? Today many people fast Erev Rosh Hashanah. So the Beis Yosef says it's a Ferish Gemara. The Bedavashu Tsar Loi Kol Adam Lasais Atzmai Gadol Oisa Keda Aminan and Tainis Yeramid Beis. So you look it up, it's a Mari Dikatzushtel. The Gemara says in Tainis Yeramid Beis, Loi Kol Aroitza Lasas Atzmai Yachid regarding fasting when there's a problem of rain, you can't do it. Rabbi Yosi Oima Oisa V'Zochel Atoiv V'Isha Ein Shevach Ulai El Tzar Ulai. When you're fasting because of a tzar, so Rashi explains, Tzaru V'Loi Gasis Ruach. When there's a crisis, everybody has to generate schusim. So the Beis Yosef is learning, that's why you're allowed to fast Erev Rosh Hashanah. It's a crisis time. We need schusim. There's no inyan of gaiva. The Beis Yosef later in Taf Reish Chav Dalid says, although it makes sense to fast 2 days Yom Kippur al Tzveika de Yoima, we do by every other Yom Tiv, but don't do it merzi kiyuara. If you made a cheshbon beginning with Siman Gimel, there must have been close to 15 Beis Yosefs that were worried about Yuhara. Obviously, the Beis Yosef was very sensitive to Yuhara. And Libi Oimli, there's a Pasha de Cheshbon. Do you ever wonder, it's probably unimaginable, the incredible schus the Beis Yosef had to write a Shulchan Aruch. He's Klal Yisrael's Poisik, Vesfardim, Ashkenazim. Why Beis Yosef of all people? But the kash is bigger. The Chidah and Shema Gedolim Erech Beis Yosef writes that there were 2 other Gedolim in the times of Beis Yosef that were equally qualified to write a Shulchan Aruch. Why was Beis Yosef Zoich? And I quote the lashon of the Chidah: "V'skima min hashemayim v'sinas sein das aydei moron mitnei an v'sanusi hayeseira." The Beis Yosef was outstanding in his anova. The Beis Yosef was eloquent testimony that Hatzlacha in life comes from anivas. The poison of gaiva could destroy anybody. Even a melech has gaiva, even Manalki Rabbanim, Talmud Chacham, that poison that could destroy him. Now this speaks volumes. Beis Yosef was not the most qualified, but he was the biggest onav. And Mipsari Erza, the Beis Yosef must have felt, what I am today is just because I kept a focus on Gaiva. And the emphasis, it's not just the Beis Yosef. The Mishnah says, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. So Chaim Volozhin says an unbelievable word. He says, Moshe's godless was Sinai. What's Sinai? Sinai is synonymous with Anava. Moshe's greatness was because of his Anivas. And then the Chaim Volozhin writes unequivocally, if someone today, in his times, and the truth is today as well in our times, if someone today would have the Anava of Moshe Rabbeinu, he could reach the heights of Moshe Rabbeinu, even though they come to Moshe. But if someone has the Anava of Moshe, he could be a Moshe. So obviously the kinyan of Torah is Anava. The Hezbollah Pashit, Torah, Ano Nafshi Kosivas Yehovis, Torah Dvar Hashem Zu Alochem, way, way, way beyond the human comprehension. But if someone is a vehicle of Kvayt Shamayim, if someone is living with their Bnei Shalom, he gets a matana. Yagato matzasa. He has a matziyah. But if someone allows the gaiva poison to creep into him, I'll never have atzlacha. Torah is a matana for those that live the midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's another. I once added, and it was kedai to come just to share this with you. The Gemara says in Erev and Daf Peivav, Rabbi having mechaber ashirim. Rabbi gave kavat ashirim, which is something a little, strange. Because he has a big bank account. So Pashat the Pshat is, if the Baruch Shem gave Mashiris, he's trustworthy. He's a loyal gizbar. He probably is an Erlacha person. Or if he gives tzedakah, he has chusim. The Maril in the Lakutim, that's printed in the back of the Minhagim of Maril, in Siman Lamed Hey, says he heard from an earlier Rishon, Rebbe was the Gadol Hador, and it just bothered him the covet he got out of Torah. And he refused to get any covet from Torah. He didn't want to be a kardam lachbor ba, a Torah-less Gadol ba. So he decided to make a new trend. We're going to be mechaber ashirim, and then people are going to give him covet, not out his Torah, not out the Rebbe, the Masad, the Mishnayis, because Rebbe was an Oisha Muflik. So to deflect the cover that he got, that now it's just a Shayna Yid, Reb so-and-so, big money. So Rebbe started a trend. You think about it, it's Mavel Arayin. He started a trend of being Mechaber Ashirim, which is very dangerous. It makes a certain aspiration. If you have a lot of money, money talks. Money screams, the Welt says. And he started a trend in Mechaber Ashirim to deflect the cover of Torah. You know what the pshat is? Because Rebbe knew his atzlacha was his anava. If he gets covered for Torah, then his Torah is tainted. He's jeopardizing his Torah. He won't be the Rebbe Misad and Mishnayis if he has the dominant force of Gaiva. That's the sakana of Gaiva. That's what the Gemara says in Pesachim, that's Samachvavam Beis. So whoever call him is Yoher, Im Chachamu Chachamasai Mistalekes. So the greatest stira to Satzlach in Torah is Gaiva. And the greatest school and ifla that a person can be like Moshe Rabbeinu is the Midah of Anava. And then you understand that Merzi Kiyur, even Merzi Kiyura, is already dangerous. You're letting in that poisonous cell that grows and grows and grows. We find in Halacha, this is rather a Gemara in Sukkah, that Chavav Med Beis, that really you're allowed to eat or drink chutz l'sukkah achilas arai, but hamachmir is tavei la bracha. And the Gemara makes a point. Even though your pata, it's not a hedget, it's tavei la bracha. And this is Gepask in the beginning of Tafresh Lambetes. In other words, it has to be a qualified chumrah. Something that's inappropriate might be gaiva. The Taz, a noteworthy Taz in Tafresh Nun Beis, Sif Cotton Beis, where the Shulchan Aruch says the minig of some great people, they would come to shul carrying the Dalet Minim in their hands, walk out with like the minig of Anshe Yerushalayim. Zok the Taz, you notice the Mechaber's Lashon is, special people, Hamadagdeg did that. But for the average person, it's a problem of Gaiva. Don't walk into shul different than everybody else. In fact, I saw from the earlier Poskim, the Svardish Poskim particularly, discuss if it's right that before Halal on Sukkot to run out and bench Lulav and Esrog in the Sukkah. If no one does it, you're already chopping Malachim. So today, God, it's done like the Beno Tam Tefillin. But you have to have a heta for that. Don't make a bad reflection on others. Everybody's making the brach in shul, and you're running out, do it in the Sukkah. The point is that what we see clearly, that even L'Shem Shamayim, even 100% L'Shem Shamayim, still has the sakana of Yura. And someone once asked, what's the problem? I want to be different, but I mean L'Shem Shamayim. So first of all, Al Zeh Gufa Yesh Ladim, is it L'Shem Shamayim? The Kotzker once said, everything should be L'Shem Shamayim, und L'Shem Shamayim, da Vaychetan L'Shem Shamayim. And someone that's L'Shem Shamayim, to make it. It's not L'Shem Shamayim. But more than that, the Poskim all say this, the fact that he's L'Shem Shamayim is not a heter. We saw Gemara. The Gemara spoke about Rabbi Yehuda, that he was Kol Maisav L'Shem Shamayim, as the Gemara says, but they wanted to put him in Cherem. Only him, he was different. So definitely the heta of, quote, the heta of L'Shem Shamayim is not the heta. What is a little of a general heta is basically, as we said, when it's done, betzina. Betzina, you're making a statement. I don't want anybody to see it. That's not gaiva. We brought rayas, we saw Lagabi Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, Lagabi 2 holes in the tzitzis. But someone that does something, L'Shem Shamayim Befahesi, is wrong. And the emes is Zil Basatayim. There are a few reasons why Mev Sekira is awesome. Besides Gaiva, you look down at others, you pastel others, you might cause machlaikis. Those reasons apply even L'Shem Shamayim. The only heta in L'Shem Shamayim is what we saw in the Maril, a Mefursim B'chashivus. That's a person that is renowned for his sitkis. Such a person is not Gaiva. When you see an Adam Gadol wearing a Benu Tam Tefillin in those days, it was understood. So a Mefursim B'chasidus, it is a heta. A B'tzinad is a heta. Unless, of course, he's doing it for the Gaiva Shiboy, that it's Tamas. But the fact that it's a Shem Shamayim, that in itself is not a heta. Now let us discuss the questions we began with, which I didn't find in Shulchan Aruch. Someone asked in the yeshiva, everybody's going someplace, his whole class is going, he doesn't want to go. Is that a problem? Is that a maila, a chesaron? So first we have to know, it might be a problem of Yura, it might be a problem of Tifish Min HaTzibur. So the question that I asked is, who's going? Who's initiating this trip? If the yeshiva is making a function, and everybody's going but you, that's Mevzik Yura. That's a Tifish Min HaTzibur. If some rowdy boys decide to go someplace and you don't belong there, that's not Mevzik Yura. But again, if the Rabbeim feel that the Bacham needs something, whether it's during the winter, during the summer, then to say I'm smarter than the Rebbe is Mevzik Yura. To sit and learn by a chasana when everybody else is just sitting and schmoozing by a table, so that really is a little touchy, but basically, Limud HaTorah, Ki Heim Chayenu, Vaygisu Vayom V'Layla, is a chiv on every single person. When you're working, you pata. Or when you're dancing, you pata. Someone that's learning while he's dancing, that's Yura and also a little of a Tzarachian. But if everybody's sitting around and why not take out a sefer? I know in some chasnas you go to, it's a phenomenal Kiddush Hashem. There's a Daf Yomi shir in a corner someplace. The whole Olam comes together. They want to catch up. But something that should be done by others if you don't, and if you want to do it, okay, it's probably better to go in a corner, in a quiet place. You'll learn better and you won't cause others to feel guilty. The third question I didn't mention, I was once by a certain Kabbalah Spaname, the yeshiva made like sort of a reunion and hundreds of Talmidim came. And there was a line of all the Rebbeim on the days, and everybody walked by to give shalom to all the Rebbeim and the Rosh Yeshiva. And one of the younger Rebbeim decided that was covered for his Talmidim, he stood up. So all the Rebbeim, the senior Rebbeim, was sitting, shaking everybody's hands, and one Rebbe in the middle of the whole line was standing, and I felt that was a little inappropriate. We have Rebbeim, and some of them were his Rebbeim, he better steiged a lot, but that would be Lefnei Rabbaisav. To do something Lefnei Rabbaisav, that might be the issue of Yuara. So, boys, let me just make a sikum what we learned today because it's important. We saw based on numerous Gemaras, Merzi Kiyuara is a problem because a person is allowing the trace of Gaiva to come. And Gaiva, like the Rishayim and Achrayim, is an Issa Daraisa. The golden Amida of Anava is challenged when there's Gaiva. Our Sugi, we learned even a Merzi, even a trace to Shem Shemaim is also awesome. Befrat in front of one's Rebbe. Gaiva is a person forgets the Rebbeinu Shalom, now he's under new management, he's serving the Anoichi. Gaiva, you look down at others, bein Adam L'Chaveroi, it's a chashash of pirud. A person has to focus kol yom of al tevieni regel Gaiva. And we see this. Halacha, we don't see iskabdu mechubadim, only one hole in al talis gadol. Women don't wear tzitzis. Beggar on the outside when it's not done is gaiva. Holding tzitzis is only mutter because the minik changed. Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin, the minik changed, but otherwise it would be gaiva. Tefillin kol hayoim, a person should not do when it's not done. Krishma for a chassan, a person should say Krishma, don't worry about the kavana. How to daven, what tone to daven, not to make extra kriyas or gimel psiyas. The attitude of b'soich ami anoichi yoshev is important. How to drink, big day, Shabbos. The only general term is betzina. A person's allowed to lie to avoid gaiva's mutter. That's what a Talmid Chacham does. Erev Rosh Hashanah you're allowed to fast because it's a Mokem Tsar. We don't fast 2 days Yom Kippur als gaiva. The godless of the Beis Yosef was his anova, and Rabbeinu HaKadosh gave up Mechaber Hashirim, that he instituted that for the concern. And basically, a person should know that with Anova, that's our Tzlacha, a Guten Tag, and a Freilich Chanukah to you all.